That was worth the wait, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Thanks.
All right. Oh, I'm so grateful. Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful because I always can come back to the truth. No matter what's happening, no matter what I see in this world, no matter what is going on out there, I can always return to the truth, to my center, to the balance within, and to remember that I live by divine principle, and that all of this is coming up in my world to bring me back to center, to bring me back to that divine principle. It's all occurring for my spiritual evolution. And so today I really want to talk about that as our mission, not only our mission in life, but the solution for humanity. I keep saying over and over again that we have a problem, and the problem is separation. We keep thinking it's something else, and we don't address the root cause of all the problems. And so they keep happening, they keep manifesting in other ways, they keep showing up. Some people say, these days, I'm going through life, one, are you freaking kidding me, at a time. Like, one, I cannot believe it, at a time. One, this is completely outrageous. What do I do now? At a time. Or perhaps one, help me God, at a time. One, how about this one? I am divine in nature, at a time. One, I must focus on the truth, at a time. One, I am whole and perfect and free, at a time. One, this cannot touch my spirit, at a time. One, this is not true and is passing and is gone, at a time. No matter what I see out there that disturbs my peace, believe me, it is temporary, because peace is your natural state and nothing can actually disturb it except your own thoughts and your own reactions. And so this is all coming up for our benefit, because it's trying to get our reaction. And the more I play the game of separation, the more I think it's real, the more angry I get, and the more I react. Or the more in despair I get. The more withdrawn maybe I become, the sicker I become, or the more lonely, or the more separated and isolated I become. When I believe this is real and play the game of separation, all those things happen. So come back home to this place. We are going to talk today about the second principle of unity, and I've got a lot of material to help me out here. So bear with me. I know my sermons have been a little long lately, but Brenda says it's okay. So it must be. So if you got a problem with that, talk to Brenda. So let's start out. The second principle of unity, guys. What is it? Human beings have a spark of divinity within them. And that spark has become a flame, and they are burning bright, and they are demonstrating their light and their Christ self. And in some, that spark is hidden under a lot of layers of misperception, a lot of layers of ego and personality. And so it's still there, but it's hidden, and they may not know about it. And so it's still our job to be the light. It's still our job to let our divinity shine bright, so we give permission for others to look in that direction within themselves. So we have a spark of divinity, and it's called the Christ Spirit, the light within. And therefore, we are inherently good. Human beings are inherently good. And I have to remember that, because what I am judging about someone else, I'm actually judging about myself. What I don't like about someone else is only something that I really don't like within myself. And when I begin to eliminate those things, I begin to feel really good. When I change how I am approaching this idea of the relationship with myself and with the divine all around and within, when I approach that relationship, everything else changes. When I'm attacking someone else, when I'm talking bad, I don't care who they are, and I don't care how justified you think it is. When you're talking bad about someone else, then you're hurting yourself. Period. You're hurting yourself. So bless everyone. We were told by our way shower, Yeshua, who showed us the way to enlightenment and back home to oneness. He said, bless those that curse you. Love your enemies. Bless those that curse you and abuse you. And just pray for them. And pray for yourself. And love your neighbor as yourself. Because if you're not loving yourself, you're not going to be able to love your neighbor. So the second principle is very, very important. To realize that you are divine. And keep telling yourself, keep reminding yourself that you are divine. You know, one time I was, and I still fall into the temptation to yell at the drivers on the road. Now, this generally only happens on Cape Cod. I've driven cars all over the world, and I find myself just in this particular situation because we only have one road, right, from there to there. There's really only one road on the Cape. So, yeah, she's laughing because she does the same thing. And so I'm calling them, why can't you drive, you idiots, and whatever. And so one day, I was running late, and I did something crazy, and I looked in the mirror and said, you idiot. Oh, I realized that every time I called someone else an idiot on the road, I was saying that to me, not to them. That was in my consciousness. Whatever you say about anybody, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's the Democrats or the Republicans it doesn't matter who you're calling names. You're talking about yourself. End of story. There's no one out there. We've come to a place in the evolution of humankind where we realize that there's no one out there. We're all one. We're all part of the same human family. When I'm attacking someone else, I'm attacking myself. That's the end of the story. Because we are all inherently good. So if I can, with all of my strength and with all of my power, love myself and acknowledge the inherent divinity within myself, I will naturally acknowledge it within you. But I have to start with myself. This is an amazing opportunity that we have in this time of having to quarantine and stay home and stay apart from others and not being able to hug each other and kiss each other openly and freely and all these things. I am able to take this time to rededicate my focus to loving myself fully as a child of God, as a divine being, loving myself. And I encourage you all to try it. Love yourself like you would someone you really, really love. A child, your husband, your wife, your mother and father, someone you really care for. Love yourself that way. Love yourself that way. Cook yourself breakfast. Give yourself a nice bath. You put money in your bank account. Pay yourself extra. Give yourself a raise. How about that? Give yourself a raise. And love yourself. Talk to yourself nicely. How often throughout the day I must tell Lily I love you 100 times? Well, I need to tell myself that 100 times. I need to keep loving myself as a child of God and realize that I too am divine. Because I really believe that all of our problems throughout the history of humankind is because we don't love ourselves. And we take out that feeling that we have of guilt and of not being enough we project it unto others. So I'm going to give you the answer. I'm not going to leave you right there. I want to give you the answer. If we are inherently good, why is there so much suffering in the world? You want to know the answer? We have simply lost touch with our divine nature. We've lost touch and we feel cut off from the source of life. Call it God, if you will. But the source of life, the universe, the life substance within everything. We feel cut off from that substance. And so now the suffering comes from us seeking the source, seeking that substance in the world. We're seeking that validation from the world. We're seeking that spiritual substance in things. I'm going to read it to you. There's 3 things that drive the human being in this particular way. This is a book from Eckhart Tolle. I think he's coming up next. Oh no, here. First, Reverend Anonymous. Our sense of separation from our source and from each other is the root cause of all human dysfunction. Does anyone here agree with me on that one? Our sense of separation is the root cause. So everything else is merely a symptom. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for a second. This guy is very, for me, brilliant in how he describes our condition and how he describes the solution. This is from Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose. Fear, greed, and the desire for power are the psychological motivating forces not only behind warfare and violence between nations, tribes, religions, and ideologies, but also the cause of incessant conflict in personal relationships. Fear, greed, the desire for power. They bring about a distortion in your perception of other people and yourself. Through them, you misperceive and misinterpret every situation, leading to misguided action designed to rid you of the fear and satisfy your need for more. So instead of getting rid of the fear, you have more of it. And so you desire more of that which cannot satisfy your true longing, which is of the source. Your true longing is for God. Your true longing is for yourself, your own light, and that connection to all the other lights. Did you see how easy it was for us to do that? It was a decision to focus on our truth and on our light. And then we were in the experience of it. Maybe it was just 5 minutes during that meditation, but we can do that every minute of every day if we so choose. So it's important to realize that, this is Eckhart again, it's important to realize, however, that fear, greed, and the desire for power are not the dysfunction that we are speaking of, but are themselves created by a dysfunction which is much deeper, which is a deep-seated collective delusion that lies within the mind of every human being. And what is that? It is a form of self or ego enhancement, a desire for more, a desire for strengthening of one's conceptual identity, one's self-image. Because that's how you keep the separation intact, is through your self-image. Is through your self-image pitted against all the other self-images. Is your ego against all the other egos. And somehow that your self-image, it can be elevated to the status of what you truly desire, which is the Christ, the light within. You truly desire to demonstrate who you are in the world as the Christ, but we've got it backwards, and we've elevated the personality and the ego, and we've done it since the beginning of time. Since the beginning of human societies, we have made idols. We have made idols of this conceptual identity. So what you need to bolster this identity is these three things that Eckhart tells us: fear, greed, and the desire for power. But the dysfunction actually is something that affects all of us, and it's separation from our source and each other. It's the need that we feel to feed that separate self, to protect that separate self, to attack all the other selves that don't believe or think like me. And you know what? Your story of what you believe in changes all the time. That's the crazy thing. And so we forget about the people who are dying. We forget about the people who are suffering. All we want to protect now is our story. And I'm talking about every one of us. This is a human problem. This cuts through all of the distinctions of whatever you might think is happening out there between political parties or anything else. This is a human problem. This is a problem that I must address at its source, which is my own heart and mind, my own belief system. And therefore, I can teach that belief system to anyone. Because I don't care about what you believe, actually. All I have to say is that Spirit has a better belief about you than you do. Spirit really knows you. And it's actually just up to you, and it's your mission here to evolve to that knowing. And I'm going to have to put it up there. It's time to evolve. Eckhart also would say that a significant portion of the Earth's population will soon recognize, if they haven't already, that humanity is now faced with a stark choice: evolve or die. You know, the Earth itself has no feeling or preference of whether we go extinct as a species or not. It's just going to continue as it always has. And so we're the ones that have been given this power of feeling, this power of connection, this power of knowing. And if you don't feel the pain of your brothers and sisters, then you've cut yourself off from the source, from oneness, and you're part of the dysfunction. You are seeking to save your story instead of save your brothers and sisters and yourself. And so you keep attempting to evolve by going in the wrong direction. We're not evolving going that way. No, we need to evolve. And I said this last week. Every single one of the problems we face has a spiritual solution. And we need to evolve to the point of believing that that spiritual solution can be and is being enacted by us, by me, and by us as we join together in the truth, in one truth, in the principle. It's not a truth you can explain, but you can experience it. How can you explain that each and every being is divine in nature? That has to be an experience. I can tell you that, but it doesn't mean anything until you experience it. Until you really, really feel with all of your being that God is within you. There's no being out there that you need to pray to. But there is certainly an energy of life that you can express that we call God. That the being of God, the beingness of God, is you. It's every consciousness that has ever entered into the field of oneness. And that field of oneness, that energy, is intelligent. We used to call it the Holy Spirit. We used to call it the field of infinite possibilities. We used to call it divine principle. You can call it whatever you want. The important thing is that you step into that vibration and raise your frequency enough to be able to live in that vibration no matter what the world is showing you. Because that's just the story, and I'm not going to protect that story any longer. What I want to protect is the Christ in me. What I want to discover is the Christ in you. So when things fall apart, they might actually be falling into place. All right, everybody laughs because things are really falling apart. And there's a lot of suffering going on, but maybe it is falling into place. Maybe there is a solution, and I'm going to have to focus on that solution. I don't like to focus on the problem so much. It's like if somebody comes to you and they're asking for healing from cancer, you don't sit there and say, we want to heal that cancer, we're going to attack that cancer, you don't keep saying cancer, 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 because that's what gets embedded in the mind, is that word and all that's associated with that word. But what you do focus on is the healing. We're going to see your body whole and perfect and free. We're going to see you filled with the light. We're going to see the energy of God flowing through your body until nothing is left but pure light and healing love. And that's affirmative prayer. That's affirmative talking, speaking with one another. And so I really believe we need to focus on the solution rather than keep restating the problem. Because we've gotten really far away from what the true problem is anyway. Separation and the dysfunction of attempting to keep this personality more powerful than God. It's not going to work anyway. You think the Creator and the life force of the whole universe knows anything at all about your personality and your ego? It doesn't know anything about it. The human race could go extinct tomorrow and the earth wouldn't know about it. The plants would grow, the oceans would flow, the tides would come and go. So it's important for you and for me to realize the gravity of this situation in which we find ourselves. It's important for you and for me to realize that I have a divine life. I have a power and a presence within me that can be and must be demonstrated in this world. I have a light that's been given me in my creation and in the intelligence of the universe that guides me. So I don't like to keep restating the problem. I like to focus on the solution. But I will say one thing, just to get your attention, one number. And you know what it means, 169,000. 169,000. More people than died in the Korean conflict, the Vietnam War, 9/11, and a lot of other things all put together. 169,000 families grieving. And by the end of the day, it could be 170. It's not stopping until we say enough is enough. We need to come together as one and stop acting as if we're separate. We need to protect each other and not our story, not our personalities, and not our egos. And I'm not saying this to make us feel guilty or to bring us down. I'm saying this to inspire us to do better. I'm saying this to inspire us to give ourselves and each other equal value and equal opportunity to live a life of power and of abundance and of health and an equal opportunity to feel the oneness that we share. I'm only saying this so that we somehow get motivated to come back to that connection that we have to each other and to the source of life itself. We're being faced with an existential decision here. And this is what Eckhart was saying. Evolve. Or perhaps become extinct. And I don't think the universe is going to notice. But you will. Do you see what I mean? As a separate being, you really can't accomplish anything in the universe. But as one, you realize the whole source of life. You come back to that place. And that's what we're evolving to, is the knowledge and the experience that we truly are one, and that we are tapped into this powerful thing that we call God. So this is Marilyn Monroe. She's the first one. I was trying to find who actually wrote, when things are falling apart, they might be coming together. So Marilyn Monroe said, sometimes things fall apart so that better things can fall together. So the preacher was afraid to quote Marilyn Monroe, so he said it. He said Rumi said it. If you don't know who said it, just write Rumi on the bottom. That covers everything. That's what they do. They put it on Facebook. That way you don't have to say it. Come on, guys. I want you to say it, because the key in learning is to find peace and power in the midst of change. Boy, I had a lot of stuff to read, and I'm not going to get to it all. But I do want to share with you this book that Martha Powers left on my desk the other day. It's a friend of hers from Oregon who's also in the ministerial path at Unity. And she wrote a book about her experience of her life blowing up. And, you know, suddenly it's like that. It's that way for everybody. The life of everybody who lives here in this country is blowing up before us. And so what we thought was true, you know, what we thought was our comfortable life just isn't so. And we are called to something greater. So this is from her book. Cynthia Hayes wrote this book, When Life Blows Up. And Cynthia tells us that we are living in a time of extraordinary and rapid change, both in our world and our personal lives. Many of us are facing the reinvention of our careers, relationships, our identities, and even ourselves. Like, who are we? That's incredible. And at a time that we never thought we would need to. We never asked for it. We didn't believe that it needed to happen. But believe it or not, this is presenting a huge opportunity. Because growth, success, and progress don't happen without change. The key to learning is how to find peace and power in the midst of change, so that we can heal and make purpose of the pain and direct the change toward making a better life. She goes on to say that the field of uncertainty is where it's happening. The field of uncertainty, though challenging, is a place of immense power. Just feel that for a moment. Because we are so uncertain of what's going to happen. We're so uncertain of all the things we thought were true. We're so uncertain about the direction of not only our country, but the human race. Stay in that field of uncertainty. That's a place of immense power. Cynthia also goes on to say, I learned that surviving, overcoming, and thriving isn't so much about analyzing and gathering information as it is about remembering who we really are. And it's about coming home. It's about coming home. It's about remembering that we are spiritual beings, that we are divine in nature. And it's about coming home to that oneness of divinity that we share, that field of all possibility. I think when things are uncertain, we begin to fall into that field of all possibilities. And we know that if God is love, it's all possibilities of love. Not possibilities of light and dark, but possibilities of light alone. Not possibilities of love and hate, but possibilities of love alone. Not possibilities of sickness and health, but possibilities of health and wholeness alone. More possibilities of your spiritual evolution. That's what's occurring. That's the opportunity before us. And that's why we're faced with this existential decision that we must, at this time, evolve. We have to. We're at this point where we have to evolve. We have to evolve spiritually, and we have to allow that to guide us in our living here on earth. We have to live as spiritual beings. We have no other choice. And don't get all sad on me, because it's the most fun there is. Living as a spiritual being, giving up your ego, personality, fear, greed, and desire for power. Wow, I'm free. Woohoo! Now I'm freer than free. I'm never going to be imprisoned by my own desires again. And every spiritual path has attempted to guide you to let go of fear, to drop your personal desires, or even drop your thinking altogether. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work unless you get to the fundamental problem. The fundamental dysfunction is that you're already that. You don't have to attain anything. You're not getting anything from out there and bringing it into your personality or ego. You're not building up your self-identity. You're saying, in thy divine wisdom, now erase my mortal limitations. And you discover that you were good all the time, that you were powerful all the time, that you were enlightened all the time, that all that was already in you and already is you. You discover that you didn't need to go anywhere, do anything, or attain anything to be that. You're already perfect as God created you. Woohoo! Good news. Isn't that great news? So all I need to do is accept. Take it in. Relish that idea. Cherish that idea. Love myself. Take it in. That's a huge idea. So find the power in the midst of this change and find the Christ in you. Love yourself, because the Christ in you is the hope of our glory. The Christ in you is the hope of your glory. The Christ in you is the hope of humanity. And then lastly, be not dismayed by the brokenness of this world. You know, all things in this world break, and all things can be mended, can be brought back together. But not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go intentionally, extravagantly, and unconditionally loving this world. Go and love unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. Be a blessing, my friends. Be that light. And I'll be right here being that light with you. Okay? All right. I love you. You're my hero. You're right there. You're my hero. Here comes another one of my heroes, Tricia Kelly.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass., and visit us online at unityoncapecod.org. This video was made possible in part through a grant from Unity Worldwide Ministries and the Templeton Foundation.